We're going to have to play fast. We're going to have to play physical.
They're a good football team. They're just a really good team.
The Showdown in Stillwater. Boise State at Oklahoma State. One of just 3 national matchups this week to feature a pair of ranked teams in the AP poll. The last time a ranked Boise State team squared off with a ranked opponent was the 2014 Fiesta Bowl, when the Broncos knocked off then 10th ranked Arizona 38-30. Hi, I'm Jesse Kurtz in the Mountain West Network studio. Boise State is the first non-conference ranked opponent to visit Stillwater since number 13 Georgia did it back in 2009. For more insight on the Broncos in this matchup, we bring in the voice of the Broncos, Bob Behler, who joins us from Boise, Idaho. Bob, appreciate you making some time for us. Right now, Boise State is the highest ranked Group of 5 team in the country after beating UConn and Troy. Brian Harsin mentioned on Monday that rankings are good for publicity and recruiting, but really doesn't affect anything inside the walls or the preparation for the ball game. This, though, is the sort of stage that has never spooked Boise State. It's the type of environment on which the Broncos thrive, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you just look at the program over the last 10 or 15 years. How many times has Boise State been ranked? How many times has Boise State played a ranked opponent? This team thrives on these kinds of games. This team shows up. This team gets those kinds of wins. So I'm looking forward to a big performance in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. This team, I think, has the makings of something special, and hopefully they'll be able to get it done on Saturday.
A special starts with the senior quarterback, Brett Rippon. He has been sensational so far. 41 of 56, 667 yards, 7 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He's now thrown for 300 or more yards 16 times, which ties him with Kellen Moore all-time at Boise State. He's really got a chance to further cement his legacy and put him into that sort of stratosphere, doesn't he, by the end of this season?
He really does, and I think quarterbacks at Boise State in the more modern vintage are going to be measured of, do you get to the New Year's Six Bowl? And if he's able to do that, he certainly joins the club. He's the only one other than Kellen Moore that's thrown for over 10,000 yards career, so he's got the statistical numbers, but I think it's what he does leading the team that counts. I look at him this year as a much improved quarterback. Brett is going to be the first to tell you that his offensive line has been fantastic. He's been sacked only once all season. He has had time to throw, and that certainly has helped and certainly given Brett the confidence to go downfield. His ability to throw downfield, to me, is something that is much improved from last year, and also the ability to throw the ball across the field. He's thrown it with a lot more zip on it. When he's had some interceptions in the past, it's been when he's tried to throw the ball across the field and they picked it off and ran it across the goal line at the other end. Those are the 2 areas where I think Rippon is much improved from last year. And Jesse, I've called a lot of college football in my day. I've seen a lot of guys improve from a junior year to a senior year, and it's generally guys that haven't had a whole lot of playing time. But for a guy that's played the previous 3 years as a starter, I've never seen somebody that's taken a bigger leap from a junior to a senior year than Brett this year.
High praise from a 2-time All-Mountain West quarterback. And you know, Bob, when we talked earlier in the year, we talked about this team's preseason identity being on defense. And I think it probably still remains that 10 returning starters, a handful of All-Mountain West players, and this Bronco defense has forced 5 turnovers so far. And they've created the turnover throne, which is sweeping the nation. What's the buzz in Boise right now over the hottest new sideline prop in all of college football?
I thought it was really clever when they unveiled it at Troy. I didn't know it was coming, and you see, players sitting in it. And I think they got a break because there were 4 turnovers in the game, so there was a lot of action, and 2 of them were scoop and scores for Tyler Horton. So Tyler's probably the guy you want to ask what it feels like, because he sat in it twice. I've complained that I don't think it's fair to the person that forces the turnover, because the guy that gets the turnover is the guy that gets to sit in it. But what about the guy that knocks the fumble away or maybe tips the interception? They ought to let them sit in it for a couple of seconds, at least to feel like what it feels to sit in the turnover throne, because it's not just one person usually that makes the turnover. But I think it's just something to enforce it. 2 years ago, the Broncos defense only got 9 turnovers all season. That was in 2016. Last year, they got 26. That was almost, triple the number of turnovers that they had from 16 to 17. I think they know that their offense is better when they get the short field. You also thwart what the other team's doing on their offense if you're able to get turnovers. So I think the defense views turnovers as the most important aspect, and it's just a way to kind of enforce it.
Well, it takes a team to force a turnover, but it takes a great broadcaster to call a turnover. I'm going to start campaigning that you get a spot on the throne here by season's end.
Well, that'd be a lot of fun. You always sound good when your team gets the turnover, and even better when your guy goes the distance, and we've had quite a few of those. Tyler Horton is the guy that's found his way into the end zone twice on defensive scores this year. So I think they're going to need a couple turnovers against Oklahoma State. I also think they're going to need to tackle very well because Oklahoma State has an awful lot of speed. I think it's going to be a tough challenge. But I think the difference in the game this week, Jesse, is going to be Boise State's defense. I think they'll slow down Oklahoma State just enough.
Well, Bob, appreciate your insight. Travel safely to Stillwater and enjoy that showdown in Stillwater. Be a good one.
Should be. Looking forward to it. Hope the Broncos can get to 3-0.
Boise State has 199 wins since the start of the 2000 season, which is the most in the country. 2 ahead of Oklahoma, 4 ahead of Ohio State. For some insight into the team that will try to keep Boise State from that 200-win plateau, let's head down to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and bring in the voice of the Cowboys, Dave Hunziker. Dave, appreciate you making some time for us. Oklahoma State is one of only 5 schools to appear in every set of the college football playoff rankings since 2015, joining Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. What makes this program not only a model of consistency, but a model of excellence?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think it's a head coach that kind of has found a concept that works, not only in terms of an offensive scheme and the spread offense, a spread offense that really has always had an emphasis on the run game as well as the pass element. So that has a lot to do with it. They've been able to find really good talent. As one former college coach said, they've done a great job of looking under rocks in Texas and finding high-level talent with speed. Guys like James Washington, for example, last year's Biletnikoff Award winner, who ended up being one of the best receivers in college football, and yet hardly anyone wanted him out of tiny Stanford, Texas, really kind of out in the middle of nowhere, if you will, in Texas. And they've done a good job finding those types of players. And I think there's also a chemistry here. They talk about the Cowboy culture, and that is, they look for the right kind of guys. They try to build a team. They don't get away from who they are. I think he's learned that over the years. Stick to your system, stick to what works, stick to recruiting-wise, what's been successful, and they've just found a formula that seems to work with a high-powered offense leading the way.
Well, it's hard to argue that offense has averaged over 41 points per game this decade. And this year's offense, very explosive once again, due in large part to Justice Hill, the dynamic running back for the Cowboys. There have been some really good running backs in that program over its history. A guy named Barry Sanders comes to mind. What makes Hill so explosive?
He has great vision side to side, and he moves really well side to side. And I think he's become more powerful even as his career has progressed. He played his freshman year and was one of the top freshman running backs in America, but had a shoulder injury that he played the entire season with and gutted through it and had a fantastic year. And then just added to that a year ago, first team All Big 12, one of the best running backs in the country. And, some people in the NFL might, be worried about his size at 5'10". He's not an overly big guy, but he's powerful. He's sneaky fast. He's got good speed. He moves really well from side to side. And the thing is, there's 3 other tailbacks in this program that are really good. I think the biggest secret about Oklahoma State that most people don't know is the fact that they have 4 really good tailbacks. And that's how this offense has changed. A lot about success for this offense will be getting those guys the ball, either handing the ball off to them, throwing screen passes to them, or involving them some other way in the passing game. And Hill's the headliner in that list for sure, but there are 3 other guys that are really good.
Well, Fred Flegg's a big reason this offense right now ranks #1 in the nation. But on the other side, they're ranked #9 in total defense in the country. And a big reason they're putting pressure on the quarterback. How are they getting that done? How are they pressuring the quarterback at the rate that they're doing it right now?
It's a brand new scheme. Jim Knowles is in his first year as a defensive coordinator. He brought the 4-2-5 to Oklahoma State. And if you remember, if you're a Mountain West fan, what TCU did defensively under Gary Patterson, there are a lot of similarities. In fact, Gary Patterson taught Jim Knowles the 4-2-5 several years ago. It's not exactly the same because there are definitely variations of it that Gary Patterson has implemented over the years and ones that Jim Knowles has added himself. But that style of defense in and of itself is all about creating pressure on the quarterback. They have a very experienced and deep defensive line. All 4 guys that started had starting experience, and most of them significant starting experience from previous years. Both linebackers in the 4-2-5 are returning starters with a lot of experience, but the big thing is the scheme's designed to do that, and they have the players and the experience up front to get that done. Jordan Brailford was all Big 12 last year. Darian Daniels, a 3-year starter in the interior. They've got solid guys. They've got, a couple ways of them they can bring in. And then again, that's what this scheme is all about. Get pressure on the quarterback and try to either get a sack or force the quarterback into a bad decision.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate your insight. Enjoy what will be a fantastic game, one of those sneaky great national matchups this Saturday.
It's going to be fun, and it's everybody's excited about having Boise here.
That's Dave Hunziker, the voice of the Oklahoma State Cowboys. You can watch nationally ranked Boise State take on nationally ranked Oklahoma State on Saturday, September 15th. Kickoff is set for 2:30 Central Time, televised by ESPN. This feature has been brought to you by Mountain America Credit Union, the official credit union of the Mountain West. From the Mountain West Network studio, I'm Jesse Kurtz.